The grand hall of the alien empire stood like a mountain of crystal and silver above the capital city. Its walls shimmered under the twin suns, glowing in colors that shifted with the sky. Inside, the hall stretched wider than a battlefield, lined with tall pillars that reached so high they vanished into golden light. At the center lay a long floor of polished stone where rulers and leaders from dozens of worlds gathered. It was not an ordinary day. This day marked the beginning of the Great Gathering, where old conflicts were to be ended and new alliances born. For many centuries, the empire of Alira's people had ruled the stars with strength and wisdom. Now they wished to welcome others into peace, though many in the court doubted if such peace could last. Among the arriving guests, one figure stood out. A single human warrior named Ryan had been chosen to walk into the hall as Earth's representative. Humanity was still young, compared to the other great races. Their ships were smaller, their colonies fewer, and their reach across the stars still narrow. Many nobles in the empire whispered that Earth did not belong in such a place. Yet the human council had sent Ryan, a soldier who had faced many battles, to prove that humans could stand with the proudest of warriors. The moment Ryan entered the grand hall, silence spread across the chamber. The long echo of his boots carried farther than the songs of the crystal walls. He wore no shining jewels, no golden armor like the alien lords. His suit was simple, marked with scars of war, patched and strengthened with steel. On his back hung the symbol of Earth's council, a crest of blue and silver. His dark eyes swept across the hall, calm and steady, as if the stares of 1,000 lords could not shake him. From her seat near the throne, Princess Alira watched. She had been raised in the heart of the empire, trained in both politics and the traditions of her people. She had seen warriors from many worlds, scaled beings from the outer planets, tall giants from the frozen moons, even machines built to fight without rest. Yet when her gaze fell on Ryan, something stirred inside her that she could not name. It was not his armor, nor the scars on his hands. It was something deeper. He walked with no arrogance, yet with strength that could not be hidden. His eyes carried a weight of both pain and pride, as if he had seen loss, yet still carried hope. To Alira, it was as if the hall itself had grown brighter when he entered. The nobles whispered among themselves. Some mocked the simplicity of his appearance. One alien lord, tall and crowned with horns of silver, muttered that humans were children, playing at war. Another scoffed that Earth had sent a single man when other races had brought entire fleets as escorts. Their voices carried, but Ryan did not react. His face stayed calm, his steps measured. He bowed when he reached the center, neither too high nor too low, showing respect, but never surrender. The Emperor, Alira's father, watched from his throne. His gaze was heavy as stone, testing the human with silence. Ryan lifted his head and met the Emperor's eyes, not with challenge, but with steady courage. A moment passed between them that many in the hall felt, though none spoke. Alira leaned forward slightly, her heart beating faster. She had been taught that love was for poets, not for rulers. She had been told that feelings were to be guarded, never shown before the court. Yet as she looked at the human warrior standing under the crystal lights, she felt her chest tighten in a way she had never known. It was sudden, powerful, and unshaken by reason. The Emperor finally spoke. His voice echoed like thunder inside the hall. He welcomed the human to the gathering, though his words were weighed with caution. Ryan responded with a firm but respectful tone, speaking of Earth's wish for peace, its hope to learn, and its promise to stand with honor among the stars. His words were simple, but they carried strength. They were not filled with the polished lines of a politician, but with the voice of someone who had fought and endured. The hall was not convinced. Some nobles shook their heads, others laughed under their breath. They saw only a man of flesh, small compared to the towering figures around him. Yet Alira saw more. She saw that behind his steady voice was a fire that many of her own people no longer carried. When Ryan finished speaking, he stood still, waiting without fear. The Emperor gave no reply yet, letting the court whisper and argue among themselves. Alira sat silent, her eyes never leaving the human. She tried to reason, with herself, to call it only respect for his courage. But deep in her heart she knew it was not only that. From the instant he had walked into the hall, something inside her had changed. The gathering continued, but for Alira the noise faded into the distance. The faces of the nobles blurred, the glow of the crystal walls dimmed. Her mind held only one image: the lone warrior of Earth, standing proud under the gaze of the Empire, untouched by scorn, unbroken by doubt. She did not know what fate awaited him in the days to come, but she knew one truth with unshaken certainty. The instant Ryan had stepped into the grand hall, he had carried away her heart without even knowing it. The gathering in the grand hall moved forward as voices of nobles filled the air. Some praised the Emperor's wisdom for inviting all races, while others whispered doubts about peace. The sound was like a storm of clashing waves, but Princess Alira's attention stayed fixed on the human warrior standing among them. Ryan did not seek to stand out. He kept his hands steady at his sides, his gaze moving calmly from one speaker to another. Yet his presence drew the eyes of many, not because of bright colors or shining armor, but because of his quiet strength. Alira had been raised among power. From childhood, she had watched great leaders enter the hall, each carrying themselves with pride. They walked as if the stars themselves bowed to them. But Ryan was different. He did not walk like a conqueror, nor did he bow like a servant. He carried himself as one who had faced storms and survived them. That simple truth was more powerful than any crown. The alien lords began to mock him openly. One of them, a tall figure with pale skin and eyes like fire, laughed as he pointed toward Ryan. "Is this what Earth sends to stand before the Empire? A lone soldier with worn armor? Do humans not know the meaning of honor?" Another lord with scaled arms and a heavy crest added, "Perhaps their ships were too weak to carry more. Perhaps this one came alone because he was all they had." The words spread across the hall, followed by murmurs and soft laughter. Ryan did not answer. He did not raise his voice or defend himself with anger. Instead, he remained still, his eyes calm as he listened. The silence of his reply was stronger than their insults. From her seat, Alira felt a rush of both anger and admiration. She wanted to rise and speak in his defense, but she knew the court would see it as unworthy for a princess to protect a stranger. Still, she could not stay silent for long. When one noble stepped forward and declared that humans were too young to sit among the stars, Alira rose. Her voice carried clear and strong across the hall. "Wisdom is not measured by age alone. Strength is not measured by numbers. A single warrior can carry more honor than an army if his spirit is true." The hall fell silent. All eyes turned toward her. The nobles did not expect the princess to speak, much less to defend the human. The Emperor's brow lifted slightly, though he said nothing. Ryan glanced at her for the first time since his arrival. Their eyes met across the hall. Alira felt her chest tighten. His gaze was steady but not proud. It was filled with quiet respect, as though he had heard her words and carried them in his heart. The silence broke when a figure stepped forward from the crowd. It was Daros, a prince of a rival house known for his sharp tongue and hunger for power. He bowed before the Emperor, then turned his eyes toward Ryan. "This human may stand tall, but words cannot hide weakness," Daros said. "Peace cannot be trusted to those who have barely reached the stars. Why should the Empire waste its time on them?" His words were sharper than the others, filled with open scorn. Alira clenched her hands, but Ryan's face did not change. He stepped forward and bowed slightly, his voice calm as he answered. "Humanity may be young," Ryan said, "but we know the meaning of sacrifice. We have fought to survive, not only against enemies, but against storms, hunger, and fear. We come not to ask for protection, but to stand as equals, ready to give and ready to guard." The hall grew quiet once more. The words were simple, but they carried truth. Even those who doubted could not deny the strength in his tone. Daros frowned. He had expected anger, but Ryan's calm answer gave him nothing to twist. Still, the rival prince smiled coldly. "Then let his deeds speak for him. Words are easy, but honor is proven through action." The emperor raised his hand, and the hall fell silent again. "Enough for today," he said. "The trials of honor will decide if humanity has a place among us. Until then, no judgment shall be made." With that, the gathering ended. Nobles rose and began to leave, their voices filling the air once again. Some whispered doubts, others spoke of curiosity. But Alira's thoughts were far from politics. As the hall emptied, she remained seated, her eyes following Ryan until he was gone from sight. She tried to understand what she felt, but her heart offered no answers. It was not only respect for his courage. It was not only admiration for his calm strength. It was something far deeper, a bond that had formed in a single glance. Later, as she walked through the palace corridors, Alira found herself lost in thought. She remembered the way he had stood, the way he had faced scorn without anger, and the way he had looked at her when she spoke. It was as if he had seen her not as a princess bound by duty, but as a person standing by his side. That night, the stars shone above the capital, brighter than usual. Alira stood by her window, gazing into the endless sky. She knew the days ahead would bring trials, danger, and choices that could shape the future of many worlds. Yet her heart whispered the same truth again and again. From the first glance in the grand hall, her life had changed. The human warrior had stepped into her world, and in that instant he had stepped into her heart as well. The morning sun rose over the empire's capital, sending golden light across the crystal towers. The city stirred with life as ships glided through the skies and markets filled with voices. Yet within the palace, the air was heavy with unease. The memory of the gathering in the grand hall still lingered, and whispers of doubt spread faster than fire. In the council chambers, nobles gathered once more. Their robes shimmered with jewels, their voices sharp and proud. They spoke not of peace, but of suspicion. Most of their words circled around one figure, the human warrior who had dared to stand among them. "Earth is nothing," one lord declared. "They have no fleets worth naming. Their armies are small. Why should we share power with them?" Another nodded in agreement. The human spoke with calm, but calm words are not strength. "I say they do not belong here. They are too young to be trusted." A third leaned forward, his voice softer but more dangerous. "What if humanity grows faster than we expect? What if this calm soldier is only a mask for ambition? Better to push them aside before they rise." Alira sat at her place, listening. She was not allowed to speak often in council, but her thoughts burned within her. She could not understand why they judged Ryan only by his people's youth, not by the courage he had shown. Her heart told her there was truth in him, a truth the others refused to see. When the council ended, she walked through the quiet gardens of the palace. The flowers glowed softly under the suns, their colors shifting with every breeze. She tried to calm her mind, yet the whispers of the nobles still echoed. She feared that distrust would lead to danger, and danger would fall first on Ryan. At That moment, the sound of footsteps reached her ears. She turned and saw him, Ryan, walking across the garden path. His armor was set aside, replaced by a simple dark tunic. Even without the armor, he carried the same presence, steady and strong. "Princess," he said with a respectful bow. Alira felt her heart quicken. She returned his bow gently. "Warrior of Earth, I did not expect to see you here." "I needed air," Ryan answered. "The walls of this palace are grand, but they feel heavier than any battlefield I have known." His words surprised her. Most warriors spoke proudly of battle, yet his tone held no pride, only honesty. She smiled faintly. "The council speaks of you still," she said. He gave a small nod. "I heard their voices. I know they doubt me. I cannot blame them. Earth is new among the stars. To them, I am only a shadow standing among giants." Alira's eyes softened. "They are blind, then. They see only what they wish to see. They do not see what I saw yesterday." Ryan tilted his head. "And what was that, Princess?" She hesitated, her heart racing, but she spoke. "I saw a man who stood with honor when others mocked him. I saw a warrior who did not answer pride with pride, nor insult with anger. That is strength greater than theirs." For a moment, silence hung between them. The sound of the breeze filled the garden, carrying the scent of flowers. Ryan looked at her with steady eyes, and Alira felt as if he was seeing into her soul. "You honor me," he said quietly, "but I do not fight for honor. I fight because my people need someone to stand for them. I was sent here not to impress, but to protect their place among the stars." His words struck her deeply. She realized then that his strength did not come from pride or ambition. It came from duty, from a heart that placed others above himself. Before she could answer, another voice interrupted, a cold, sharp tone that broke the peace of the garden. "So, the human finds comfort in royal gardens," the voice said. They turned to see Daros stepping into view. His robes were dark red, his eyes narrow with disdain. He walked slowly, as if the garden itself bowed to him. "Princess," Daros said with a shallow bow, "I fear you waste your time on this outsider. He may seem calm, but he is nothing more than a tool of his council. His kind has no place among rulers." Alira's face hardened. "Daros, you speak too boldly. The Emperor himself has given the human a chance. Should you not respect his will?" Daros gave a thin smile. "Respect is earned, and humans have earned nothing. This one hides behind calm words, but words cannot change weakness." Ryan stood silent, his posture firm but not aggressive. Alira felt anger rise within her. She stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Enough, Daros. You fear what you do not understand. That is not strength. That is cowardice." The prince's smile faded, replaced by a glare. Yet he did not challenge her directly. Instead, he looked at Ryan. "Then let the trials show the truth. We will see if the human's calm eyes can stand against the weight of our traditions." With that, Daros turned and left the garden, his steps echoing like threats. Alira exhaled slowly. She turned back to Ryan, worry in her eyes. "He will not stop. He seeks to see you fail." Ryan gave a slight smile. "Let him. I have faced worse than his words. If the trials are meant to test me, then I will face them. Not for myself, but for my people." Alira looked at him with both fear and admiration. She wanted to tell him to be careful, to protect himself. But she knew such words would be wasted. He was not a man who feared hardship. He was a man who accepted it. As they walked together through the garden, the suns slowly set behind the towers. The sky turned shades of red and gold, casting long shadows across the palace. In those shadows, distrust grew, whispered by nobles and fanned by rivals. Yet in the quiet of the garden, something else grew as well. A bond between a human warrior and an alien princess. Neither spoke of it aloud, but both felt it. It was fragile, like the first light of dawn, yet strong enough to guide them through the darkness that lay ahead. The next day dawned with a sky painted in silver clouds and golden light. Across the empire, word spread quickly. Today, the human would face the ceremonial trial. The halls and streets buzzed with excitement, for the trial of honor was not a simple contest. It was an ancient tradition that tested the heart of every warrior who sought respect among the stars. Rian rose early. He stood before the mirror of polished stone in his chamber, fastening his worn armor with steady hands. It was the same armor he had carried through many battles, scratched and scarred yet still whole. He had no new shield, no gleaming blade, gifted by nobles. What he carried was his own, the weight of every struggle written in the dents and marks of the steel. A servant entered quietly, bowing. "Warrior of Earth, the Emperor calls for you. The court gathers in the arena." Ryan gave a small nod and followed. His steps were silent, but his heart was steady. He did not walk for pride or glory. He walked for Earth, for the trust of his people who had sent him across the stars. The arena was a vast circle carved into the heart of the palace, older than the empire itself. Its walls rose high, lined with seats filled by nobles, soldiers, and citizens eager to witness the trial. The emperor sat upon a raised throne with Princess Alira at his side. Her eyes searched the crowd until they found Rian, and her breath caught in her chest. The announcer's voice rang out. "Today we witness the trial of honor to test the heart and spirit of the human warrior. 3 challenges await him: the trial of strength, the trial of wisdom, and the trial of mercy. Only through these may his worth be judged." The crowd roared in approval. Some cheered with excitement, others waited with sharp smiles, hoping to see him fail. Among them sat Daros, his eyes cold with envy, certain the human would fall. The first challenge began. From the far gate, a massive beast was released into the arena. Its body was covered in plated scales, its claws sharp enough to tear stone, its eyes burning with fury. The trial of strength was simple: face the beast and endure. Ryan stepped forward, gripping a spear handed to him by the guards. The ground shook as the beast charged. Dust rose as claws struck the floor. The crowd gasped as the human stood his ground. At the last instant, Ryan moved to the side, swift as wind. He struck with his spear, not to kill, but to weaken, guiding the beast away from the center. The fight raged, claws against steel, roars against silence. Ryan's body strained with effort, but his mind remained clear. He knew that strength was not only about force, but about endurance. With patience, he dodged, blocked, and struck with precision. Finally, with a well-placed blow, he forced the beast back until it collapsed, exhausted. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered, others muttered in disbelief. Ryan lowered his spear and bowed respectfully toward the beast before leaving it unharmed. The announcer's voice rang out again. "The trial of strength is complete. The human endures." Alira's hands tightened on the armrest of her seat. Her heart raced with both pride and fear. She had prayed for his safety, and now she felt hope rise within her. The second challenge began. The trial of wisdom was not of battle, but of mind. A great puzzle of shifting stones rose from the floor of the arena, forming towers and paths that moved like rivers. The challenge was to cross to the other side, but the way was hidden within endless shifting routes. Rian studied the puzzle with calm eyes. The crowd expected him to stumble, for many thought humans lacked the knowledge of older races. Yet he did not rush. He walked slowly, watching how each stone moved, how patterns repeated. His mind traced the rhythm, the order beneath the chaos. Step by step, he advanced. Where others would have forced their way, he waited for the right moment. Where others would have rushed, he chose patience. Slowly, carefully, he crossed the maze until he reached the far side. The arena fell silent, then erupted again in surprise. Even some who had doubted began to nod with respect. The announcer declared, "The trial of wisdom is complete. The human prevails." Daros clenched his fists. He could not believe the human had passed so easily. His glare burned toward Ryan. But the warrior did not look his way. The final challenge began. The trial of mercy was the hardest of all, for it tested the heart, not the body or mind. From the gates, 2 prisoners were led into the arena. One was a thief from the Empire, guilty of betrayal. The other was a rival soldier who had once fought against the Empire. The tradition was cruel in its choice, for the warrior must decide who to spare and who to condemn. The crowd hushed, waiting to see if the human would falter. Ryan stepped forward. He looked at the thief, then at the soldier. Their eyes held fear, anger, and sorrow. The announcer's voice rang out. "Choose, warrior of Earth. 1 life you save, 1 life you end. Show us the judgment of your people." Alira's chest tightened. She hated this part of the trial, yet tradition demanded it. She feared what choice Ryan might make, feared that mercy would be lost. Ryan's voice rose, steady and strong. "No," the hall gasped. Even the Emperor leaned forward. "I will not choose who must live and who must die," Ryan continued. "Mercy is not about sparing one at the cost of another. Mercy is giving both the chance to rise again. If that breaks tradition, then so be it. I am human. And this is the truth of my people." The silence was deep. For a moment, no one spoke. Then a wave of voices rose, some angry, some amazed. Daros leapt to his feet, shouting, "He dishonors the trial! He refuses the law!" But Alira rose as well. Her voice was clear as a bell. "No, Prince Daros. He shows us what honor truly means. Mercy is not measured by the blade, but by the heart. He has passed the trial more than any of us could." The Emperor raised his hand, and silence returned. His eyes studied Ryan for a long time, then he nodded slowly. "The trial of mercy is complete. The human has chosen his path, and we shall honor it." The crowd erupted again, this time with more cheers than anger. The 2 prisoners were led away, spared. Ryan stood alone in the arena, his face calm though his body carried the weight of the trials. Alira's heart soared. She knew now that her first feelings had not been wrong. This man was not only a warrior, but a leader of spirit, someone who carried truth in every step. And though she could not say it aloud, she felt her heart bind itself to his even more. The trials were over, yet the echoes of that day lingered in every corner of the Empire. The name of the human warrior spread quickly across the city. In the markets, traders whispered of his courage. In the barracks, soldiers spoke of his skill. In the noble halls, leaders argued about his defiance of tradition. Some praised him, others condemned him, but no one could ignore him. Ryan himself remained quiet. He returned to his chamber with no celebration, no prideful boast. He sat by the window as the suns dipped below the horizon, polishing his old armor, with careful hands. To him, the trials were not victories, but duties. He had not come to impress, only to stand for his people. Yet in another chamber of the palace, Princess Alira could not silence the thoughts in her heart. She replayed every moment of the trials in her mind, the way he had fought the beast with patience, solved the puzzle with calm, and most of all, refused to choose between lives when forced. Each act had shown her something rare, something beyond strength. She whispered to herself, "He carries a spirit no crown can buy." The next day, the Emperor summoned his court. The grand hall filled again, the crystal walls glowing with morning light. Ryan was called forward to stand before the throne. You have faced the trials of honor, the emperor said, his deep voice echoing. You endured strength, you showed wisdom, and you chose mercy. Many among us question your path, yet none can deny you passed each test. For this, you and your people shall remain in these halls, not as strangers, but as voices in our council, the nobles murmured. Some bowed their heads, accepting the emperor's decision, while others frowned with sharp eyes. Daros was among them, his hands clenched at his sides. He had hoped to see Ryan broken, yet now he was honored. Rian bowed deeply. I thank you, Emperor. I stand here not for myself, but for Earth. My people only seek a place of peace among the stars. The Emperor nodded once. Your words are heard. When the court was dismissed, Alira found herself walking beside Ryan in the corridors. The silence between them was not heavy but warm, as if no words were needed. Still, she spoke softly. You have given more than proof of strength. You have shown them the heart of humanity. Ryan glanced at her, his expression calm. The trials were only steps. Trust is not won in a single day. Perhaps not, Alira said, but trust begins with one step, and you took it. For a moment their eyes met, and the air between them felt alive. Alira quickly turned her gaze away, her cheeks warm. She could not allow her feelings to escape too openly, not in the palace where every glance was watched. Later that evening, the city prepared a feast to honor the gathering. Lights glowed across the towers, and the streets filled with music. Nobles wore fine robes, soldiers polished their armor, and servants hurried to prepare food from every world. The grand hall was transformed, its pillars draped in banners, its floor alive with colors. Rian entered dressed simply, the same way he always did. Though others wore shining jewels, he wore none. Yet again, eyes turned toward him. The nobles still spoke in whispers, but now there was more curiosity than scorn. Alira sat beside her father at the high table, her gaze drifting often toward Rian. She tried to hide her interest, but her heart refused to obey. She watched him move among the guests with steady grace, never boastful, never seeking praise. When he spoke to others, his words were simple, but they carried a weight that even the proudest nobles could not dismiss. At one point, Daros approached the human. His voice was smooth, his smile sharp. You walk proudly for one who bends tradition. Tell me, human, do you think mercy makes you strong? Or is it only weakness hidden in noble words? Ryan looked at him calmly. Mercy is not weakness. It is the hardest strength to carry, for it asks us to hold back when we could strike, and to forgive when we could condemn. If you see that as weakness, then perhaps you have never known true strength. The words spread quickly through the hall, and many nodded in silent agreement. Daros's smile faltered, though he hid his anger behind a forced laugh. He left with his pride wounded, but his envy grew sharper. As the feast continued, Alira could no longer keep her thoughts contained. She found a quiet moment and walked toward Ryan. Together they stood near a balcony overlooking the city lights. The nobles may never admit it, but you have changed something here, she said softly. You remind them of what honor truly means. Ryan shook his head. I did not come to change them. I only came to stand for my people. If they see something more, then that is their choice. Alira studied his face. The calm lines, the steady eyes, the strength held without arrogance. Her heart ached with unspoken words. She wanted to tell him what she felt. That from the first moment he stepped into the hall, she had seen him as more than a warrior, but she could not. Her duty as princess bound her to silence. Instead, she said, the path ahead will not be easy. There are those who will never accept you. Some will try to break you. Ryan's voice was firm. I know. but difficulty does not frighten me. I have walked through fire before. If more fire comes, then I will walk again." His words filled her with both fear and admiration. She turned her gaze back to the city, hiding the warmth in her eyes. Far below, unseen in the shadows, Daros stood among his allies. His voice was low, his tone filled with anger. "The human wins their respect. Even the princess defends him. If we do not act, he will rise too high. We must break him before the council gives him power." The others nodded in agreement, their faces grim. A plan began to form in the darkness, a plan that would strike not only at Ryan, but at the very heart of peace. Above, Rian and Alira remained on the balcony, unaware of the storm that brewed beneath. The night seemed calm, filled with music and laughter, yet the shadows carried danger. Alira glanced at Ryan once more, her heart whispering words she could not speak. She knew one truth, however. No matter what storms came, this man carried a spirit that could not be broken. He was more than a warrior of flesh. He was a warrior of spirit, and his spirit shone brighter than any crown. The grand hall was alive with light and sound. Nobles from many worlds had gathered again, this time to celebrate the alliance that had begun to form. Music played, banners fluttered, and the scent of roasted meats and sweet fruits filled the air. It seemed a day of peace and joy. Princess Alira stood near her father, watching the celebrations. Her eyes often found Ryan, who moved quietly among the guests. Even amid laughter and conversation, he seemed aware of everything around him. His presence drew attention, but not with arrogance. He spoke politely, smiled lightly, and carried himself as a man who knew his place and honored the room he walked in. Yet in the shadows, trouble was already stirring. Daros had not forgotten the human who had bested him in courage and wisdom. His pride had been wounded, and envy burned like fire in his chest. He whispered to his allies, plotting a strike that would ruin not only Ryan, but also the fragile peace forming among the races. As the music played, Daros slipped quietly through, hidden passages known only to the palace elite. He carried small soldiers in cloaks, ready to strike when the moment came. His plan was simple: create chaos, blame the humans, and ensure that the council and the emperor would distrust them forever. Inside the hall, Ryan noticed a slight tension in the air. His instincts, honed through battles on Earth and beyond, warned him that danger was near. He looked at Alira, who smiled warmly at him, unaware of the approaching threat. "Princess," he said softly, "remain near your father. The hall may not be as safe as it seems." Alira's brow furrowed. "Ryan, what do you mean?" Before he could answer, the doors of the grand hall burst open. Figures in dark cloaks rushed in, wielding weapons and shouting orders in harsh voices. Panic spread like wildfire. Guests screamed and scrambled for safety. Musicians dropped their instruments, and banners fluttered wildly in the sudden chaos. Ryan moved immediately. He drew his sword, the blade of earth steel shining under the crystal lights. He did not hesitate. His eyes scanned the hall, calculating every move. Soldiers of the Empire rushed to meet the attackers, but it was clear the intruders had planned. For strength and speed, Alira felt her heart hammer in her chest. She had feared conflict, but seeing it so close, she realized the danger was real. She took a step toward Ryan, but he held up a hand. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The human warrior charged into the fray. His movements were precise and controlled. Each strike disarmed an attacker without unnecessary harm. He fought not for anger, but for protection, for the princess, for the emperor, and for all those in the hall. Alira watched in awe. Every motion of his body told of years of discipline. His calm voice guided soldiers. His sword blocked blows with perfect timing. The attackers, trained for surprise, found themselves unable to match his skill and awareness. Darrow stood at the far end of the hall, his plan beginning to crumble. He had not expected the human to fight with such control and focus. Each time he thought Ryan would falter, the warrior adapted and moved with unmatched speed and strength. As the battle continued, Alira noticed that Ryan was careful. He did not strike anyone unnecessarily. Even when an attacker lunged at him with deadly intent, he disarmed rather than killed, using his strength to control the situation rather than destroy it. The crowd began to rally. Soldiers of the Empire followed Ryan's lead, inspired by his courage and clarity. The intruders were pushed back step by step, unable to sustain their assault against the unity and skill of those defending the hall. Finally, with a final swift move, Ryan disarmed the last attacker. Silence fell over the grand hall, broken only by the heavy breathing of those who had fought. The hall was battered, but intact. The intruders were captured and restrained. Darrow had been forced to retreat, his plan undone, but the shadow of his envy remained strong. The Emperor rose from his throne, his eyes scanning the hall. When they met Ryan's, he gave a slow nod. "You have defended this place with courage and wisdom. Not only have you protected the princess and this court, but you have proven the spirit of your people. Earth's warrior stands among us as a shield for peace." Alira's eyes glistened. She felt relief and admiration all at once. Ryan had not only survived, but he had held his honor intact, showing mercy and strength even in chaos. Her heart, already stirred by admiration, now burned with a feeling she could not hide. She moved closer, brushing past the gathered nobles. "Ryan," she said softly, "you saved more than lives today. You have saved the honor of all who stand for peace." Ryan turned to her, his eyes calm, though exhaustion showed on his face. "I only did what was needed," he said. "I fight because it is right, not for praise." Alira shook her head slightly. "No, what you did was beyond what was needed. You have shown us courage, wisdom, and mercy all at once. That is more than anyone expected." Even as she spoke, Ryan's attention remained on the hall, checking for any hidden threats. His vigilance never faltered. Alira realized that his strength was not only in his arms or skill, but in his mind and heart. Outside the hall, the city, guards moved quickly to secure the palace. Darrow had fled, but the Emperor's command was clear. He would face justice for his actions. Alira knew that peace was fragile and that new threats could come at any time. Yet she also knew that Ryan would face them with the same courage he had shown today. As the guests returned to their celebrations, Alira stayed near Ryan. The lights of the grand hall glowed around them, reflecting off the crystal pillars, and, in that glow, she saw not just a warrior, but a protector and a friend. She could not yet speak the full truth of her feelings, but she felt them strongly in her heart. Ryan, standing quietly, looked out over the hall. The human had faced trials, scorn, and betrayal, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that he was not alone. The princess, the emperor, and the soldiers who had fought beside him had seen his strength, and that recognition was more powerful than any award or crown. In that moment, Alira realized something. The instant Ryan had stepped into the grand hall, he had not only captured her heart, he had also changed the hearts of many around him. His courage, wisdom, and mercy had shown the truth of humanity's spirit. No shadow of envy, no plot of betrayal could undo that truth. And though the night was long and danger still lay ahead, the bond between the human warrior and the alien princess had grown stronger. In the face of betrayal, his spirit had shone brightest, and Alira knew that the story of this day would be remembered for generations to come. The morning after the betrayal in the hall, the city seemed calm again. The sky glowed with soft sunlight, and the streets were alive with merchants, travelers, and citizens who had heard of the human warrior's courage. Though the night had been dangerous, the Empire's people spoke of hope and unity, inspired by his actions. Princess Alira walked through the palace gardens, the soft wind carrying the scent of flowers from distant worlds. Her mind wandered to the events of the previous day, the trials, the attack, and the bravery Rian had shown. Her heart was restless, for she had come to realize that her feelings for him went beyond admiration. She had come to care deeply for the human who had captured not only her attention, but also her respect and trust. Rian approached quietly, his presence as calm as ever. He carried no armor, only his simple tunic and sword at his side. His eyes, clear and steady, met hers. "Princess," he said softly, bowing slightly. "The palace seems peaceful again." Alira smiled faintly. "Peace is fragile, yet today it feels real, thanks to you." Rian shook his head. "I only did what was needed. The real strength belongs to those who stand with me. Your people, the soldiers and you. Your courage gave meaning to my actions." She stepped closer, her gaze holding his. "Rian, do you not see what you have done? You have earned trust, respect, and admiration from those who once doubted you. You have shown that honor is more than strength, that wisdom is more than knowledge, and that mercy is more than kindness. You have shown what humanity truly is." Rian's lips curved into a small, humble smile. "I only act according to what I believe is right. If that inspires others, then I am grateful. But it is not why I act." Alira's heart ached with unspoken words. She wished she could tell him how she felt, that from the first moment he entered the grand hall, he had changed something within her. Yet duty and respect for tradition held her back. Instead, she said, "There is a council meeting soon. The Emperor wishes to discuss the future of Earth among the stars. Perhaps it is time for you to speak before all leaders." Rian nodded. "Then I will speak as I always have, for my people and for the hope of peace." The council gathered in the main chamber. Representatives of many worlds filled the room, their faces marked by curiosity, caution, and lingering doubts. The Emperor took his place, and Alira sat beside him, her eyes seeking Rian among the crowd. He stepped forward, his posture steady, his voice calm but strong. "Honored leaders of the Empire, I stand before you not to ask for favor, nor to claim glory. I stand for my people and for the hope of unity among worlds. We are new, yet we carry the lessons of struggle, of survival, and of understanding. I ask not to be judged by our youth, but by the truth of our actions and the honor of our hearts." The chamber fell silent. His words were simple, yet they carried a weight that reached beyond walls and titles. Even those who had doubted him could not ignore the sincerity and strength behind them. "Yesterday," Rian continued, "I faced trials not to prove myself, but to show what humanity can bring to this empire. Strength, wisdom, and mercy are not gifts of one people, but ideals that all of us can honor. I ask that my people be given the chance to stand beside you, to learn, and to contribute to the future of this alliance." The Emperor's gaze lingered on him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "The words are heard, and the heart is seen. Human, you have proven not only skill, but spirit. Your people shall be welcomed among us, not as strangers, but as allies and voices of hope." The chamber erupted in applause. Some leaders clapped reluctantly, others cheered openly. Even Daros, though scowling, did not interrupt. His plans had failed, and he could see that the human had earned a place in the hearts of many. Alira felt relief and pride wash over her. She rose from her seat, her eyes finding Rian. He looked back at her with the calm strength that had first captured her attention. And in that moment, she realized that trust, respect, and admiration had grown into something far deeper. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Alira found herself walking beside Ryan. The suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The breeze carried the soft scent of flowers and the quiet hum of the city. "You have done more than survive trials and betrayal," she said softly. "You have shown what it means to be a warrior not only of strength, but of heart. I'm grateful to have known you." Rian's eyes met hers, steady and warm. "Princess, I am honored by your words. But know this, my path is guided by duty first. Whatever feelings grow between us, they will not distract me from protecting my people or this alliance." Alira smiled faintly, understanding the depth of his words. "I do not doubt you. Yet I also know that bonds can form even in duty, that respect and trust can grow into something stronger." For a long moment they walked in silence, the connection between them unspoken yet undeniable. Alira felt the truth of her heart, and Ryan felt the quiet respect and trust she offered. It was a bond forged not only by admiration or fascination, but by shared experience, courage, and understanding. That night the palace was quiet. Stars glittered above, and the city slept in peace. Alira looked at Ryan once more, standing near the balcony, his gaze on the distant horizon. She realized that from the moment he had entered the grand hall, her life had changed. He had shown her the strength of the human spirit, the power of honor, and the beauty of mercy. And though the future was uncertain, filled with challenges and trials yet to come, she knew one truth. The human warrior had earned her heart, not by words or promises, but by the courage and honor he carried in every action. Ryan turned to her then, a small, genuine smile crossing his face. "Whatever comes next, we face it together, Princess. Not as ruler and stranger, but as allies and friends." Alira's heart swelled. "Together," she said. Above them the stars shone brightly, bearing witness to the bond forged between human and alien, warrior and princess, and the promise of a future built on courage, trust, and unity. In that moment, a new chapter began, not only for Rian and Alira, but for all who had witnessed the strength of the human spirit. And in the hearts of those who had seen him rise, hope burned brighter than ever. The empire had faced trials, betrayal, and doubt. Yet through it all, the human warrior had proven that honor, courage, and mercy could unite worlds, and that even a single soul could change the course of history.